Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome back to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. The Super Bowl is done. We've got a new champion in the NFL. What takeaways do the Bears have after watching that game last night? What lessons are there to be learned from the Rams winning it with a veteran quarterback in Matthew Stafford, but the Bengals getting there with the young Joe Burrow? We've got some reactions to the game, plus some takeaways overall from it. Over in the NBA, the Bulls are getting set to tip off against the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The Bulls stood pat at the NBA trade deadline last week despite everyone else that is in contention in the Eastern Conference making some kind of move. Was that the right decision by Karnisovitz and Mark Eversley? Or should they have been more active at the trade deadline? What exactly is this Bulls team now that we are getting through the thick of the season? We will discuss the Bulls. Normally, when the NFL season is wrapping up, that means it's time to turn and take a look at the MLB with spring training just around the corner. Well, that's not going to be happening on time this year. What's going to be going on in the MLB? Are we going to be able to have regular season games with the regular schedule? That, and there's some new people coming into the city, both with the Fire and with the Sky. Lots of new faces to meet and lots to discuss. Buckle on up. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Let's roll. And once again, welcome on in. I am your host, Adam Kernick. I am so glad that you are here with me this week to talk about all things sports in the best sports city in the USA, right here in Chicago. Lots to be going over tonight. Going to be wrapping up the Super Bowl, talking about some Bears perspectives on that. Going to be bouncing over and talking Bulls in the NBA. Hoping to talk a little MLB tonight. But then we've also got some new stars, some new faces with new teams to be discussing here, both with the Fire Football Club and with the defending WNBA champion Chicago Sky. So lots to get through tonight on our show this week. So glad you are here with us. Without any further ado, let's get right on in with it. Starting off, first of all, of course, with our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or over on Facebook by searching Southern California Warriors. And Background Check International. Businesses, are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Fremen take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes, such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Go to their website, bcint.com, or head over to Facebook and find them by searching Background Check International-BCI. IE Sports Radio is available for you on all of the major social platforms at IE Sports Radio, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. And for the last 7.5, nearly 8 years now, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers, the first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 30 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And also, while you're there at the website, you can learn about information about the various hosts we have here at IE Sports Radio and all the different shows that we do. And you can also learn about our various fans of the month. This month, it's Spuds Chat. He is a Rams fan living in San Diego, so he has got to be just over the moon today. I bet he probably didn't get to sleep until probably after midnight his time, enjoying being Super Bowl champions. He's been a frequent guest on 3 and Out with Larry B all throughout the playoffs, so I'm sure he was having a good time. And if you are listening live here to this show here tonight on Monday night, please be sure to hop on into the chat room. You can hang out with myself. Taryn is in there as well. He, of course, is coming up right after us to talk all things volleyball on Set Point. And we can interact that way. You can follow along with this show on Twitter at IESRC. I am at Adam_Karnick. All the ways that we can interact and have fun on Twitter there for you as well. And without any further ado, then let's dive on into the show. So, of course, we have to start off with, today should just be a national holiday. It really should. Businesses be closed, schools be closed. The Super Bowl is the big major sporting event still in the country. And last night's game was a good one. I don't know that it was necessarily an all-timer, but it was by no means a clunker. That was a good, well-played game. It felt like a boxing match. You know, the great Marcus Losgreat, at MLosgreat on Twitter. He's one of our Patreon supporters, along with at Bay Area Raised. Thank you to both of them for supporting us on Patreon. We really do appreciate it. Marcus, of course, talks all things boxing and MMA and other the hand combat sports on Wednesday nights. And this would be a good question for him, but to me, this felt like a good boxing match kind of a game where both teams spent the early part of the game just kind of feeling their way through it, not wanting to make a lot of mistakes early and not wanting to overcommit themselves to not wanting to tip their hand too early as to what their strategy was and what they were trying to do. As I was watching it and enjoying it, and even in the couple of weeks build up to it, I kept thinking, my mind kept coming back to, what's the Bears' takeaway from all this? What are the lessons that we as Bears fans and just consumers of football, what are some of the lessons and takeaways that we can get from these two teams being here? Of course, with the Bengals, the obvious thing right out of the gate is you're never that far away. The Bengals, the last 2 years, combined for just 6 wins in the last 2 years combined. That's how many the Bears had this year. So you're never as far away. You're probably never as close as you think you are, but you're never as far away as you feel like either. That's the beautiful thing about the NFL, is you're never really that far away. Another takeaway from the Bengals getting there, As I was getting ready for this, I heard Hub Arkish mention this earlier today on the radio, that the Bengals, 15 of their 22 starters have been guys that they have drafted in the first 3 rounds over the last 5 years or so. So having an emphasis on drafting guys, correctly identifying draft picks, and then being able to nurture them and have a staff that grows with them and utilizes their talents. As Taryn points out in the chat, Leonard Floyd is now a Super Bowl champion. Perfect example of a draft mistake ultimately by the Bears and the prior administration. You can't say that, it's hard to say that Ryan Pace missed with Leonard Floyd, because Leonard Floyd winds up being a key contributor on a Super Bowl champion. That's certainly somebody that's worth spending a first-round pick on. You could even argue it's worth trading up into the top 10 to get because of the premium position, pass rush. But it's got to be somebody that the coaching staff ultimately believes in. And Matt Nagy, and at the time Vic Fangio, and then later ultimately other coaches on the staff, just for whatever reason didn't have the same conviction and the same feeling about Leonard Floyd as Ryan Pace did. So you've got to have your front office and your coaching staff working in harmony with each other. You don't want to draft somebody that your coaches aren't as excited about as you are as a general manager. You certainly don't want to trade up for a guy like that. But at the same time, you look at the Rams. The Rams haven't had a first-round pick. Taryn, help me out here. You're a SoCal guy. The Rams haven't had a first-round pick, and I couldn't tell you how long. It feels like Aaron Donald, who's completing his 12th season, it feels like Aaron Donald was the last guy they took in the first round, and that was back in 2010. I know they've had first-round picks since then. Jared Goff, was the last guy they took in the first round, and he's now playing for the Lions. They've been trading away picks to look at the guys that the Rams acquired via trades or via free agency that were big contributors last night. Matthew Stafford, starting quarterback, traded multiple first-round picks to get him. Leonard Floyd, that was a free agent pickup. Von Miller, they traded away a second-round pick from this year's class to get an additional pass rush. He was a key contributor. Odell Beckham, you could tell he was going to be a key primary part of their game plan before he got hurt, potentially tore his ACL. That's the rumor and scuttlebutt coming out today, is that he did indeed tear his ACL, and you feel for Beckham in that case, because not only does he then lose out on playing in the majority of the Super Bowl, a Super Bowl in which it seemed like he was going to be featured, he's going to miss a huge chunk of next season. Even if he pulls an Adrian Peterson and only needs 8 months of recovery, you're still talking middle of October before he's back. And I would expect it to be more like December at the earliest that he'd be back. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if he misses this entire upcoming season. That's a guy they traded for, that they acquired late. That's not somebody that they drafted and nurtured and brought along in the fold. So there's more than one way to build a roster. There's more than one way to go at it. So what what takeaways do we have here from the Bears? Well, the biggest one for both teams, they have quarterbacks that they believe in and that they believe can lead the team for the long haul. Look at Stafford. Yes, he threw the 2 interceptions. Yes, he didn't win the MVP, nor really should he have. The second interception I didn't feel like that was entirely his fault. The pass was a little off, but the receiver, and that was Beckham's replacement, if I remember the play correctly, you could tell why he was a backup. He wasn't prepared to make that catch, and it wound up, because it's an over-the-middle throw, there's a defender right there, and that was a huge momentum flip. I mean, that was right at the start of the third quarter. That was the first play that the Rams ran right after the Bengals scored on their first play to start the second half. You could feel the momentum completely flip over to the Bengals at that point. One other takeaway that I have, so quarterback, obviously, is a huge one. I've said it before. I will continue to say it. If anybody is selling stock in Justin Fields, please come see me, because I am buying. I still believe that the Bears have something in Fields. This is going to be a huge season for him, of course. But I see some of those Burrow traits in Fields, especially the moxie. Fields has the moxie. He knows that he's got the talent. He doesn't carry himself quite the same way that Burrow does. They're each their own person. They're their own individual. They're each their own young man. But absolutely, you've got some of that. Another takeaway, looking at the Rams, their game plan, by and large, was to rush 4 and drop 7 into coverage and rely on just a 4-man rush. I know that they had to mix in some blitzes a little bit more in the second half. But you look at the game-winning play. That's a 4-man rush, and Aaron Donald went out and just beat his man to knock Burrow off the spot, rush the play, and ultimately win the Super Bowl. I know that there is some concern, trepidation, fear, whatever word you want to use to describe it, that the Bears going back to what Eberflus is essentially going to be running is going to be his version of the old Tampa 2, of the Tony Dungy, Lovie Smith, Monty Kiffin, Rod Marinelli style defense, that there's not a lot of blitzing. It's a lot of, you trust your guys up front and you trust the 7 guys behind them to play in their zones and take care of the ball. There's still a place for that in the NFL. Yes, blitzing is fun. Blitzing is exciting. It's entertaining. It's violent. It's part of what we love about football. You watch a good blitz be executed. You watch a blitz get called, dialed up, and then executed to perfection. Oh, it gets you right there. I'm right there with everybody. But it's not the only way. There is still a place for a 4-man rush in the NFL. Another takeaway, and this goes for both sides, you've got to have depth. You've got to have depth at at your key positions, specifically on offense. We talk about all the time how football is a war of attrition. And a lot of times the team that wins it is the team that stays the healthiest. But sometimes you've got to recognize where you need extra players. And that's your skill positions on offense. Look at the receiving staff. I mean, the Rams came in. Now, obviously, they're down their tight end in Higbee, and they very quickly went down the guy that was going to be their primary receiver in Beckham Jr. They still had Cooper Kupp, and they still made it work. You look at the Bengals. Everybody talked about that offensive line, and rightly so, and ultimately Joe Burrow got sacked and pressured too often last night. They're going to need to address that offensive line. But Jamar Chase, Boyd, Higbee, it's tough to defend all that. If you have depth at your skill positions, you can have success. There's ways to have success even without a stellar offensive line if you can have depth at your skill positions. That's something else that I took away from the game last night. And they don't need to be able to run the ball either. And look at the Rams. They tried. They were hell-bent on running the ball. 23 carries for 45 yards or numbers close to that from last night. It wasn't from a lack of effort that they didn't run the ball. It was the Bengals shut it down. But the Rams were still able to have success overall as a team. So, some of my takeaways from the Super Bowl last night. Overall, it's a good game. Congratulations to the Rams. Congratulations on the Bengals for getting there. It'll be interesting to see where those teams go from here, and it'll be interesting to see what lessons Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus take away from watching that game last night. We need to take our first break, and on the other side, we are going to switch over and go to the hard court. We are going to talk about the Bulls, a team that did not make any moves at the trade deadline, unlike a lot of other teams in the East. Was that the right move? We will discuss that next. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnick. We will be right back after this quick break.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest owners. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you again for tuning in for this week's episode. Want to catch up on the chat room real quick. Taryn, thank you for confirming for me. Yes, indeed, Jared Goff was the Rams' most recent first-round pick, and that came all the way back in 2016. My gosh, that's gonna. They won the Super Bowl. I've seen people arguing back and forth. You cannot argue that it worked for the Rams. They went all in and it worked. Eventually, that's gonna catch up with you. And then Taryn was also wondering, where was Joe Mixon on the final drive? And I heard people talking about that specifically on the fourth down play, the third down play for the Bengals, third and a yard, and they brought in their backup running back, who's their more traditional third down back, and a lot of people going, man, and then they ran the ball with him and he got stuffed, and a lot of people were, well, why were you playing him? Why if you were going to run the ball, why didn't you go with Joe Mixon? The only thing I could think from the Bengals' perspective on that is they wanted to present their traditional look so as not to tip their hand. They were hoping that the Rams, because they took Mixon out, might be willing to accept that the Bengals might throw the ball, to not completely take that out of consideration. Because I think if you leave Mixon in on that play, then if you're the Rams, you're absolutely okay. We're selling out to stop the run here on the spot. They've kept Mixon in. He's not normally in on third down. We're gonna sell out to stop the run. That's the only thing I can think. I haven't heard that confirmed. That's just my own thought on that, is that they were hoping to force the Rams to have to at least honor the passing attack of the Bengals there on that. So the Bulls, they just finished the first quarter over at United Center tonight. The Bulls are hosting the San Antonio Spurs. At the end of one, it is 29-27 Bulls. The Spurs went on a bit of a run there to close out the first quarter. I'm trying to pull up the exact gamecast here to let you know exactly what happened. But the Spurs closed it. Kobe White and Nikola Vucevic, the big scorers so far in the first quarter for the Bulls tonight. Kobe White with 11 points, including 3 of 3 from behind the three-point line. Vucevic, 6 of 9 from the floor. Vuce has got 12 points and 6 rebounds. White with 11 points and 2 assists here in the early going. Kobe White scored the Bulls' first 8 points of the game tonight. DeMar DeRozan and Ayo Dosunmu just 2 points each, and Brown with 2 points. Troy Brown Jr. with 2 points off the bench is it for the scoring for the Bulls in the first quarter of that one. So Bulls on top of the Spurs at the end of one, 29-27 at the end of one. The NBA trade deadline came and went last week. I believe it was last week, Wednesday. And the Bulls did not make a move. And that was a bit surprising. Certainly not because, certainly the Bulls have issues. They don't have much depth behind Vucevic in the front court there. And down in the paint at the forwards in the center position, and they've been dealing with injuries left, right, and center. Zach LaVine is not playing tonight. He's actually in Los Angeles right now, getting his knee checked out. There's a possibility that he may not participate in the All-Star weekend this coming weekend in the NBA, though it's likely that he will. It doesn't seem to be too devastating for him. But you looked around the rest of the East, and a lot of other teams were making moves. The 76ers, of course, made the big blockbuster trade with Brooklyn to acquire James Harden, sending Ben Simmons away. A player that has not wanted to play for the Sixers managed to talk his way out of Brooklyn. And James Harden, a guy that quietly didn't want to be there in Brooklyn anymore, managed to get his way out of town. So you saw some big moves there, but you saw moves from just about everybody in the East except the Bulls. And then, of course, Karnisovitz, after the trade deadline came and went, said, well, we're injured. When a lot of these guys come back, you're still missing Lonzo Ball. You're still missing Alex Caruso. Zach LaVine's not at 100%. Patrick Williams has missed almost the entire season. You figure when, Javonte Green is still out. When these guys come back, those will almost feel like trade acquisitions. And that's not to say that the Bulls can't acquire some pieces still, even though we're past the trade deadline. There's still the possibility that some moves could be made, some guys could be picked up. I feel like, though, with the Bulls right now, with where they're at, and they're sitting, they're right there in the East. They are coming into play tonight. They are a game back of Miami for first place in the East. Of course, they're also only a game and a half out of fifth in the East. The East is just so tight right now. And it has been all season, and it probably will continue to be tight all season. Cleveland, Milwaukee, Philly, they're not going anywhere. Boston, we'll see what happens there with the Celtics. I feel like I'm reminded a little bit watching this Bulls team. I'm reminded a bit of the Cubs from, 7 years ago now. The 2015 Cubs. When the first year with Lester, where they kind of burst out onto the scene a little bit. And it was, whoa. We figured the Cubs would be better. They announced their intentions to be better when they signed Lester, and they made some other moves to try and show their intent that they feel that the window is starting to open up for them. But we weren't quite ready for just how good the team was going to be so soon. I feel that way about the Bulls right now, that the window is open, absolutely. But maybe they're overachieving a little bit. Maybe they're good, but this isn't the year to make the moves. The Cubs in 2015, when they got to the trade deadline, all the talk was, all right, are they going to go out and, they need help at starting pitching. They need help at pitching. Are they going to go out and get another arm, get another big arm? Are they going to sell some of those assets before, at the trade deadline here? And the Cubs made a very small move. Yes, they acquired a starting pitcher, but it wasn't a big-time guy. It was a pitcher that wound up being the fifth man in their rotation, and he didn't pitch at all in the playoffs. I kind of feel that's where the Cubs are right now, that they're recognizing that, hey, we're good, we're in our window, but this isn't the year to go big or go home. They're not quite there yet. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances beyond their control, a lot of injuries, lots of COVID or otherwise, they haven't really had a chance to really look at the core of this team. You haven't seen Williams and Vooch and Levine and Io out and DeRozan out there on the court a lot together. And I think that may have contributed to Karnisovitz and Eversley saying, you know what? Let's pump the brakes on this a bit. Let's not go crazy with a move right now this year. It's not that they think the team is perfect, that all the holes are plugged and that they're ready to go win the title. It's not to say that they can't go. It's not to say that they couldn't go win a title this year. But they've only won once in, 12 or 13 tries against some of the top tier, more elite teams in the NBA this year. So it feels like if you get into a 7-game series with somebody, so especially Philly, Joel Embiid, they have no answer for Joel Embiid. If they get into a 7, and then you add Harden into that mix, if they get into a 7-game series with somebody like Philly, they're just going to come up short. They're not going to have an answer for that. But that's not to say that this is the year to go nuts. And I think maybe that's what we saw from the Bulls at this trade deadline. A little bit, that they're recognizing that the window is open, but it's not going to close at the end of this year. They don't need to go nuts. They didn't need to go crazy at this trade deadline. Trading their pick from Portland next year in the next upcoming draft, or trading Patrick Williams, or going crazy to make a move. Speaking of baseball, a little bit. Speaking of those Cubs and the White Sox, I don't think we're going to get the baseball season starting on time. Normally, this would be, the Super Bowl is done. Now we'd, start to focus on some of the other sports a little bit more. In years past, of course, we'd be ignoring the Bulls by this point because they'd be like 6-60 already. We'd be just starting to look at the college game. Illinois is doing well in the college ranks, ranked in the top 15 in the nation, and on the men's side. We'd be starting to gear up and get ready for tournament time. We'd also be getting ready for spring training in MLB. Pitchers and catchers are supposed to report tomorrow to spring training. That's not happening. The MLB has still locked out the players, and there are almost no signs, no encouraging signs between owners and players right now. There were a couple of small things that got mentioned last week by the commissioner. We have seen our final pitcher hit in Major League Baseball. We're going to have a universal DH going forward. Cool. We've all been waiting for that for several years anyway. They made a couple of other smaller concessions, but there's a lot of work to go, and neither side is budging. Spring training is in for real is supposed to start in about 2 weeks. They've given themselves kind of a soft deadline of February 28, 2 weeks from today, to get things sorted out so that the season can start on time. I don't know that it's going to happen. It just feels like both of these sides are just way too dug in and way too distrustful of the other side to make a move and make something happen, which is too bad, because in the end, the game is going to suffer. They're going to have to start refunding tickets for spring training games that most likely aren't going to happen. And you're going to have people that are going to be, maybe they were thinking about making some plans to go to a game this year. Maybe that that money's going someplace else. Maybe that money's getting saved to go to Disney World or go to Six Flags or go on vacation someplace else rather than going to the ballpark this year. Because who knows when the season might start. I just saw something come across from ESPN here. I'm going to have to read the story more later, so I won't really be able to talk about it much tonight. But Major League Baseball has asked for the ability to eliminate hundreds of minor league playing jobs in latest labor offer to the players. And that's according to Jeff Passan. I don't see why the players would go for that. I would have to imagine that they're trying to say, well, we'll be able to pay you guys more if we wouldn't have these pesky minor league players they have to pay. Yeah, bull. You don't pay minor league players anything. And minor league players get paid $7,000 a year. So I don't believe that for a minute, that the only way that they could find the money to pay the major league guys is to stop paying the minor league guys. But it's depressing what's going on in baseball. We are actively watching a sport destroy itself from the outside and just kind of sitting back and watching. I was reading an ESPN article about it earlier today, and they were saying this isn't quite the strike of 1994, which canceled the World Series, but it's getting close to that. You know, we're not that far away. We're not that far away. We're 2 weeks out from what Major League Baseball has said is the deadline for having the regular season get affected. That's not good. You do not want the regular season being affected by this, but they're so far apart on so many key issues. It's not just the players want more money and the owners don't want to give it to them. There's service time that they're wanting to talk about. There's draft pick compensation that they've got to figure out how it's going to work. They did announce that, okay, there's going to be a lottery draft going forward, but they can't agree on how many teams should be in the lottery. They've got to work on that. They've got to figure out how many teams are going to qualify for the playoffs going forward. Playoffs? There's so many key things that they've got to iron out yet, and they're not talking to each other. You know, the owners proposed something on Saturday. The players are going to respond to it sometime this week, and then, you know, the owners probably won't respond to that for another week. You know, they're just not showing any urgency in this. That 2 weeks is going to be up faster than I think any of us realize it. And it's going to be a real kick in the butt for everybody involved in MLB when they see just how negative of a response this creates to their game. So going from baseball, though, which is not happening, to let's talk about some teams that are doing some things. There were a couple of signings, some new additions, some new players to welcome to the great city of Chicago. One is a football player going to be playing for the Chicago Fire this upcoming season, and one is going to be playing on the hard court for the defending champion Sky, and I am excited for her. I will tell you about both of those players coming up next. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. I am Adam Karnick, your host. This is your direct feed for all that is sports, and we are right back after this.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Motorsports takes many forms, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Are you a Minnesota sports fan? If you are, you should join me, AJ, on my Thursday night podcast called Frozen Takes with AJ on IU Sports Radio. I talk about all things Minnesota sports, from the Vikings to Lynx basketball. Every week I talk about the good and the bad of sports in the land of the Frozen Lakes. Join me Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for your Minnesota sports show on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Calling all Indiana sports fans, this is your podcast. Welcome to High Octane Entertainment on IE Sports Radio. Join me, Justin Lahr, as your host on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, to hear all the latest and greatest sports updates on everything from college to the pros in the great Hoosier State. No matter what, it's guaranteed to be high-octane entertainment. That's Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Be sure to stick around right after our show tonight, because Taryn Rodriguez will be on right after us with another edition of Set Point, talking all things volleyball. He's going to be talking about some Loyola men's volleyball. But before we get to him, we've got one more segment here of Chi-Town Weekly to wrap things up. A couple of new players to welcome to the city of Chicago. We've got, first of all, up for the Chicago Fire, they've got a new midfielder that they signed over from Switzerland this past week. A 30-year-old midfielder, I'm only going to say his last name because I know I can pronounce that, Shaqiri, comes over from the Champions League. Talking with Tyler Snipes about him a little bit last week at the time of the signing. Likes the move for the Fire. I mean, for Shaqiri, it's definitely a get some money in the bag before retiring kind of a move. But at the same time, he's still somebody that can produce and can have success here with the Fire. And then talking with my friend Evan, who has been on the show as well, talking soccer with us before. He likes the move also. And one of the questions I asked him was, okay, why would you go from Champions League to playing in MLS, in Major League Soccer? And it was, look, it's yes, it's a step down in competition, but you get more minutes, you get a little bit more exposure, and you get to kind of excel a little bit as you're starting to head towards the end of your career. Switzerland, the Swiss team, the Swiss national team likes it because they get a little bit of extra money out of it too. So welcome to the city of Chicago, Shaqiri. We are excited to see what you do on the pitch over at Soldier Field this summer with the Chicago Fire Football Club. And then one other person to welcome in to the defending WNBA champion Chicago Sky guard Kaiser Gondrzak. She played for the Indiana Fever last year. I am very excited for her. She played her rookie year down in Indiana with the Fever. She played half the season with them. Unfortunately, her father passed away during the summer, and she left the team at that time to go take care of him, and then the team in the offseason decided to move on. I am excited because I actually got to cover Kaiser when she played high school basketball over in nearby Benton Harbor, Michigan. So got to see her up close and personal a few times as a high school player. She is an excellent young guard. Originally went to University of Michigan before transferring over to West Virginia and finished up her collegiate career there. She is going to be an exciting player for the Sky coming up. So some new signings. Welcome to the city, both of those players. And hopefully we will see some great things from both of them here this coming summer. All right. That is going to do it for our show here tonight. Of course, be sure to stick around. Taryn Rodriguez will be doing Set Point here coming up in just a minute. Want to say thank you again to our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors and Background Check International, for continuing to sponsor not just this show, but all the shows here on IE Sports Radio. So thank you to them. Please do go check out our website, iesportsradio.com. You can learn about Spuds, our fan of the month. You can check out the shows and, of course, our Patreon link. Please, if you are at all able, please consider being our Patreon supporter. We would really appreciate it. You get things out of the deal as well. Thank you to Larry B. for everything he does in keeping IE Sports Radio running smoothly. Thank you to Taryn for hanging out with me in the chat. Of course, he is going to be up right after us with Set Point. And finally, thank you for listening into this episode this week. I really do appreciate it, whether you're listening live here on Valentine's Day night or if you are listening later on in the week. I really do appreciate you making me part of your week so we can talk sports in the best city in the U.S. That does it for our show tonight. If you are indeed listening on Valentine's Day, go have some fun, be safe, be careful out there. Don't get in any kind of an accident going to your late supper or whatever your date activity is for the night. As for me, I got to go find some food somewhere now, I think. All right. Next week, we will, of course, be talking Bulls as they get started restarted after their All-Star break. We'll see what tricks and moves they've got up their sleeve. There will, of course, be other things to be talking about as we get into more of the college game as well. Until then, I am Adam Karnick for IE Sports Radio. We'll see you next week.